Happy Thanksgiving, RotoBallers. We have 3 games to celebrate on Thursday, 1 on Friday, 11 on Sunday, and 1 more on Monday. It is a full helping of fantasy football on your plate this week, so I hope you're wearing your stretchy pants. Here are 5 defenses fantasy managers can start with confidence in week number 13. And we're starting with the Atlanta Falcons as they take on the New York Jets. Now, heading into last week's contest against the Saints, the Atlanta Falcons had averaged 8 fantasy points per game over their previous 3 contests. Against Tyler Shugg and the Saints, the Falcons defense, it came away with 5 sacks, an interception, and forced a pair of fumbles, recovering 1. With that 5-sack performance, the Falcons pushed their season total to 39, trailing only the Broncos and the Browns in that department. Besides the sacks, the Falcons have been one of the most opportunistic defenses this season, as they have accumulated 9 interceptions, which happens to be the 7th most, while also forcing 10 fumbles, recovering 6 of them. As for the Jets, only the Cardinals, Raiders, and Titans have surrendered more sacks than the 39 that the Jets have allowed thus far. While the Jets have done a pretty good job of protecting the ball, they haven't done a great job on the scoreboard, as the 19.9 points per game they are currently averaging is the 4th fewest. Another defense I like this week, it's the Seattle Seahawks as they take on the Minnesota Vikings. Let's face it, since returning to the lineup, J.J. McCarthy, he is not him. Since week number 9, McCarthy is averaging just 11.8 fantasy points per game, completing just 50.5% of his passes for 541 yards while throwing 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's also been sacked 6 times in those 4 games. For Seattle, few teams have been more stout against the run than the Seahawks. In fact, only the Broncos, Patriots, and Jaguars are allowing fewer than the 90.8 rushing yards per game that the Seahawks have allowed. If Minnesota's run game is neutralized, it's going to be a long day for J.J. McCarthy and company. Entering week number 13, Seattle, they are averaging 9.3 fantasy points per game. That is the 2nd most and have registered 34 sacks in 11 contests, which is the 4th most. They've also added 9 interceptions along the way. McCarthy's performance last week, it is quite forgettable. I mean, the former Wolverine, he threw for just 87 yards, turned the ball over twice, and he was sacked on 5 occasions. That might be the floor for the Seattle defense this week. Another defense I like this week, it's them boys from Duval County. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars as they head to Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans. We are now heading into week number 13, and the Jaguars are still a top 10 fantasy DST, averaging 7.6 fantasy points per game while producing 7 or more fantasy points in 3 straight contests. Jacksonville, they have been better than advertised this year. While the Jaguars are near the bottom of the league when it comes to that sack department, the Titans, they are near the top of the league sack exchange, as Cam Ward has been sacked 3 or more times in 9 of 11 contests and 4 or more times on 8 occasions, including 4 more times last week, pushing that sack total to a league high 45. Where the Jaguars have excelled this year, it is capitalizing on mistakes. One area in which Ward has been pretty good as the rookie has thrown just 6 interceptions. The 13 interceptions of which the Jaguars have forced this season, that is the 2nd most, while the 18 turnovers forced, that happens to be the 4th most in the NFL. How about another defense? How about the Chargers as they take on the Las Vegas Raiders? Yes, pretty much anyone who's playing the Las Vegas Raiders, you can start at this time. Not many offenses have been as bad as the Raiders have been this season. Entering that Week 12 contest, the Raiders, they're averaging just 269 yards of total offense per game, which happened to be the 3rd fewest, 187.6 passing yards per game, which was the 9th fewest, and 81.4 rushing yards per game, which is the 2nd fewest. That futility, it continued last week against the Browns, as Ashton Genty, he averaged just 2.9 yards per carry on his 17 attempts. Las Vegas struggles, they start at that offensive line where inconsistency and injuries have decimated this offensive unit. Geno Smith has thrown 13 interceptions, and worse yet, he has been sacked 41 times in just 11 games. Since week number 8, the Chargers defense has averaged 7.3 fantasy points per game and produced 10 or more fantasy points in 2 of their previous 3 outings. In the previous meeting, the Chargers held Geno Smith to 180 passing yards on 24 of 43 passing, while sacking the Raiders signal caller 3 times. Los Angeles, they also picked off Smith on 3 occasions as well in that Week 2 game. Now, teams, they have been producing all season long against the Raiders, like I said, and this week is going to be no different. Smith, he's still probably feeling the after effects of being sacked 10 times as the Raiders hosted the Browns last week. Myles Garrett, you can't put this offensive line with Myles Garrett. you know what? I digress. Now, the final defense I'm starting, how about the Pittsburgh Steelers as they take on the Buffalo Bills? Yes, I'm starting a defense against the Buffalo Bills. In Week 12, we've seen it could be done. The Houston Texans DST producing 15 fantasy points against the Buffalo Bills after the Texans pass rushers were able to sack Josh Allen 8 times and force the All-Pro into a pair of interceptions. Houston, they are the top scoring DST this season, but the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're not that far behind, averaging 8.5 fantasy points per game. That is the 4th most, so don't be scared of this matchup. And since week number 9, no DST has been more productive than the Steelers, who have averaged 13.5 fantasy points per game over their previous 4 games. As good as Josh Allen and the Bills have been, the 28 sacks they have allowed are the 12th most, and the sad truth, Allen, he doesn't have anyone to throw the ball to. Allen is going to have to protect himself and the ball in this one. The Steelers, they sit 5th in sacks with 34, but that's not even the most impressive part of this TJ Watt-led unit. Pittsburgh's 9 interceptions, tied for 7th, and the 14 fumbles and 11 fumble recoveries, that is the tops in the National Football League. And if you haven't already done so, hit those like and follow buttons, and be sure to head to RotoBaller.com for all the latest news and fantasy analysis. We'll see you next time.